The Birds' second week of NFL free agency is off to a bang, with the best remaining pass rusher officially coming to Philadelphia. Plus, why the Eagles just gave Lane Johnson a massive contract extension today, and even though Philly kept their offseason spending to a minimum this year, Howie's plan is even more genius than I originally thought. I'm Thomas Mott. This is the Thomas Mott Show. There's been a lot of confusion online following the Birds' slow start to NFL free agency, as rumors of quick spending turned into garage sale bargain hunting, especially this past weekend, as Philadelphia signed a bunch of new free agents, but did not get the big splash everybody hoped. That is, of course, if you don't count re-signing the best linebacker in football being a big splash. But listen, you get my point. Howie, though, might have saved his best for last, inking former UGA and New York Giant edge rusher Azeez Ojulari to a one-year, $4 million deal today, adding another pass rusher into the mix in this young defensive line. Now, a one-year, $4 million deal, that's super cheap, Thomas. He can't be that great. Let me assure you, Azeez Ojulari is a completely different player than Josh Uche or even Patrick Johnson. Ojulari stormed onto the NFL scene in 2021, when he had 8 sacks in 17 games in what was a very promising rookie season. His biggest issue, though? Health, suffering injuries in each of the last 3 seasons, including a calf, ankle, quad, and last year's toe issue. But unlike, say, Uche, whose only productive season was back in 2022, Ojulari had 6 sacks in just 11 games this past season as a backup edge rusher who at one point had 5 sacks in a 3-game stretch. Ojulari now has the opportunity to prove himself along a loaded Eagle D-line, return back to his rookie year form, which, if successful, will result in a huge offseason extension either in Philadelphia or elsewhere. Oh, and he's not even 25 years old as of yet. He turns 25 in June. And if Saquon Barkley showed us anything last year, the ex-Giant turned Eagle pipeline is a pretty good situation to be in. Plus, come on, he's a former UGA Bulldog, and we know UGA Bulldogs ball out in Philadelphia. Still not convinced? How about this? In 2024, his sack rate was the same as Bryce Huff's was his last season with the Jets whenever he absolutely balled out, resulting in Huff's $17 million year contract with Philadelphia. Now sure, Huff has so far been a bust, but a good comparison to show how much potential Ojulari has. Now of course, Ojulari wasn't all the Eagles apparently had up their sleeves today, as Philadelphia just announced a contract extension for their all-world right tackle Lane Johnson, adding $8 million over the next 2 years and an additional $30 million in guarantees. This means Lane is also now signed for 3 more seasons through 2027 instead of just through 2026. Further indicating his desire to continue playing for many years to come, and clearly allowing Howie to save some cap space somewhere along the line. Now, as of right now, we don't know exactly where the Birds will save the cap space on this deal. Is it in 2025 to make room for another signing? Is it in 2026, 2027, or further? Not sure, but obviously whenever Howie makes extensions like this, he clearly has something in mind. A lot of times it means saving money. At the very least, though, this definitely confirms Philadelphia will not be drafting any sort of right tackle to replace Lane Johnson in this upcoming April draft, instead allowing them to focus on other key holes with their first few picks. Howie Roseman's offseason plans were kind of confusing the first couple of days. Even I was saying, okay, are they going to do something? They're losing everybody, but the past couple of moves, not just today, but over the weekend, have clearly shown his plan, and I think it's starting to make a ton of sense. The Birds have had to be very selective and technically cheap, but it's all to protect their future, as perfectly explained by the Philly Cover Corners article, which featured this chart showing how much cap space the Eagles' core will take up over the next 4 years, with a projected 70% of the 2028 cap going towards just 11 players. And that, of course, doesn't include all-world defensive tackle Jalen Carter, who's gearing up for a massive contract extension next offseason to become the highest-paid defensive tackle, maybe even defensive lineman in the entire NFL, which, of course, will eat up a ton more cap space over the next couple of years. And so despite all the rumors, like 2 weeks ago we talked about on this show saying, oh, Myles Garrett this, Trey Hendrickson that, all sourced from legit reporters like Diana Rossini and Jeremy Fowler, Philadelphia clearly did not want to spend big this offseason, and hence the flurry of very cheap one-year deals. And don't be surprised if Philadelphia cuts ties with more players currently on the roster in the near future, either this offseason or next. Obviously, we've already talked about Dallas Goedert being a post-June 1st trade candidate potential, but the Philly Cover Corner article also mentioned guys like Jordan Davis, Reed Blankenship, AJ Brown, and even Zach Bond, obviously being future trade candidates. Obviously, I wouldn't trade Zach Bond or AJ Brown, but the article makes a good point here. If you wanted to maximize your return, you would do it after this season. Long way from now, I don't think it's going to happen, but worth noting. For me, Jordan Davis would be the only out of those 4 I would consider at least moving this offseason, mainly due to a very strong defensive tackle draft class. But personally, I think Jordan Davis is starting to come into his own and could have a Milton Williams type year going into 2025. Obviously, all speculation, but clearly the main main point of this article is Philadelphia lost all those internal free agents and didn't go big name hunting because they want to save cap space for obviously Jalen Carter's contract and the rest of the core going forward. Also, I officially hit 90,000 subscribers here on the channel, which is crazy, but it also means it's time to give away the Zach Bond signed mini helmet. So if you want to go ahead and enter, obviously be subscribed, drop a like, leave a comment on this video. I'll be picking a winner later on this week, so be sure to stay tuned. Now, despite all the losses, especially this weekend, everyone seems to forget that Philadelphia, especially with the most recent loss of Mekhi Becton, received yet another compensatory pick for 2026's NFL Draft, bringing their total number of selections over the next 2 Aprils to 20 picks, with 11 of those being in the first 4 rounds. And this, broken down to its smallest form, is really Howie Roseman's offseason plan. Get rid of people that you can't afford to pay, sign some cheap one-year deal free agents to maybe pop off in the Eagles system, but gather as many draft picks as humanly possible and hope you hit on more draft picks than not. And looking back over the last 4 drafts, Howie Roseman has had a total of 30 draft picks, and by my own metrics has hit on a ton of those players. And by hit, I mean they're either a meaningful starter, a solid piece, or an elite player. By my count, 14 of those 30 picks have been really solid and fit that category. And that's not counting Sidney Brown or Kelee Ringo. That's nearly hitting on 50% of his draft picks the past 4 seasons. And if Philadelphia can stay on that trend, hitting 50% of their, let's say, 20 picks the next 2 years, while still keeping the core Super Bowl sign through 2028, means it's going to be a long next couple of seasons for the rest of the NFL. And all of this has been lost in the free agent frenzy and the signing frenzy, the fact that Philadelphia still has the main core of the team that won the Super Bowl just a couple of weeks ago. I mean, they were up 34-0 on the Kansas City Chiefs and made one of the greatest defensive coordinators in the entire NFL still have nightmares to this day about that game.
The game, because, you know, I'll tell you, I'm going to be honest with you guys. It took me, I didn't look at that tape until like 17 days after the game.
Is that right? Wow.
I just couldn't, it was just, listen, it just stung. I watched bits and pieces of it, Baldy, but I didn't sit down and analyze it until I think I was at the combine. But anyway, I have done it. Felt like going into the game that we had to somehow not allow them to be two-dimensional. Because I've been there, you can't defend them because they get the run going and he's throwing the ball and he gets out of the pocket. I did think we did a fairly good job of that. But to the credit to the quarterback, the rest of those guys that were playing on offense, they made some key throws. And I thought Jalen did a great job really in critical situations of beating us or getting first downs. I thought that was really challenging. And that's what happens in this league nowadays with these athletic quarterbacks. You can take away runs, you can cover really well, have them all covered. And when they say, hey, I'm going to get the first down with my feet, and they're able to do it because your lanes are out of whack or something happens, then it becomes challenging.
Plus, every single free agent departure the past couple of weeks has a current replacement on the roster. Whether they turn out to be good or not, who knows? But really, Milton Williams, Romero Ojomo, Jalen Hunt, Josh Sweat, Kelee Ringo, Darius Slay, all of these guys that Philadelphia has lost has a replacement ready to go on the roster, and the question is, can they turn out to be as good or maybe better? And I think just to hammer home the you gotta trust Howie Roseman theme of the show today, look at what the Bengals did just last night. They inked both Jamar Chase and T. Higgins to massive contract extensions that pay them a combined $11.25 million a year more than the Birds' wide receiver duo of Devontae Smith and AJ Brown. Philly's been doing everything right the past few seasons, and I have a ton of faith in the process going forward. Oh, and just to close the chapter on Cincinnati for 1 second, Dana Rossini said this morning the Bengals are working to retain Trey Hendrickson by giving him a massive contract extension. So any hope of waiting for the Hendrickson trade to fall is all but dead. And again, I totally get it from Howie's perspective after everything I just explained about the Birds' cap situation. Now, naturally, just because Philadelphia is not spending big money on any more free agents this offseason doesn't mean they aren't still bargain hunting. There's still a couple of names out there, like, say, Justin Simmons, that could be looking for a new home at a discounted price. And while we've already talked about Justin Simmons, there are 2 others I'd definitely be interested on defense for Philadelphia to bring in for a workout. First being former Eagle Kaiser White, who spent the past 2 seasons with the bad Arizona Cardinals defense, is still under the age of 30, and had a total of 137 tackles and 2.5 sacks the past 2 years. He'd be the kind of signing Howie Roseman could pull the trigger on right now for A, very cheap, but B, if Howie has any doubts on Nakobe Dean's knee health for the start of the season. Because right now, the depth chart currently stands, Jeremiah Trotter Jr. is the only other linebacker besides Zach Bond on the roster. To me, for the right price, Kaiser White is worth a phone call. The other free agent is cornerback Asante Samuel Jr., who is still considered one of the best free agents remaining on the board, being he's only 26 years old and has 6 interceptions in his first 4 seasons as a pro, but apparently a shoulder injury last year has clearly quieted his free agent market and left him without a team as of today. A simple 1-year prove-it deal for the former Charger would add some competition for Kelee Ringo on the outside, and allow the Birds to look to other holes to fill in next month's April draft. Still, though, there are reasons why we're in week 2 of NFL free agency, and Kaiser White, Asante Samuel Jr., and others, Von Miller, are still unsigned. So take it all with a massive grain of salt. I don't think Philadelphia is going to be that key on these guys, but hey, the longer we wait, the cheaper they become, and then maybe the Eagles, who are still bargain hunting and keep saying that, go ahead and make a phone call. Now, circling back to people Philadelphia has already signed, and there are 3 out of the seemingly many one-year contracts I'm very interested in. The first being Josh Uche, who has the potential to revitalize his career on the defensive line, and I think could be a really good rotational pass rusher on this unit.
The Eagles was the best fit for me, the most passionate, in terms of pursuing me, and I just feel like the history, the Super Bowl, everything just fell in line, the stars aligned, and I feel like it's where God called me to be. Being 26 years old, I got a lot left in the tank, man, and it just comes down to opportunity and getting on the field, doing my job. Whenever I'm on the field, I've been effective, I've been efficient. So it's just all about getting on the field and doing my job.
With the second being very similar in my preseason roster bubble favorite on the Birds last year in Patrick Johnson. Although right now, the Birds' original first signing of the week in AJ Dillon is starting to really grow on me, as at first I kind of saw him as this Rashad Penny signing, not going to do much, but I'm slowly starting to think he's going to be the big physical change-up back behind Saquon Barkley a lot of Eagle fans want. My big worry was the health of his neck, which caused him to miss the majority of the 2024 season, but he spoke to the Philadelphia media over the weekend and assured everybody the doctors have cleared him and he's 100% healthy.
Like I said earlier, I originally, when you get that kind of news, you always want to be cautious, make sure you're ticking all your boxes, doing all the proper checks and balances, but got all the green lights, so I'm feeling good. I don't step on the football field thinking about, oh, what could and what if. That's how you end up getting hurt playing this game. So we got the green light. I feel good. I feel confident. I don't feel any residual or anything like that. So one of those things that you just kind of work through, get back, and here I am, and I'm in Philly. I'm going to make the most of it.
Now, will Dillon be the backup running back we all hope? No idea, but the tools are there, and behind this offensive line, man, anything is possible. Also, shout out to Nolan Smith for not only being a stud this past season, but also going on the noted Jalen Hurts hater Cam Newton show, and giving the best defense of the Birds quarterback one this offseason.
Man, I'll say this about one. That's what I call him, one, because he that one. Like, man, he do everything the right way. Mm-hmm. And then not only is during the times when people are waving stuff, man, he get us through there, no matter what. Like my rookie year, Kelly Green game, we going to overtime. Sorry, team. I'm thinking, man, we about to lose. What one do? Ain't nobody, no read. It's wet, raining, everybody slipping. He running in for a touchdown. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I say, man, having faith in your quarterback is also another thing. Like, only time I ever watched the Carolina football team is when Cam played and was out there and giving them boys confidence and motivating in themselves. Them boys were sorry. Them boys sorry. Hey. What made them feel like they could do something? Okay, that's all I gotta say. One.
Come on now.
Okay, and that's the same thing for us. And even, yes, one is a great quarterback. He's not asked to do what Josh Allen does. Wanna know why? We got Saquon Barkley. We got offensive weapons. Mm-hmm. We got real people. So if you just go out there and play good football, and you play behind your defense, there's no reason we should lose.
Still kind of odd how everyone outside Philadelphia loves to still rip on the Super Bowl MVP, by the way, Jalen Hurts, yet his teammates, anytime they're asked, absolutely rave about him. Now, obviously, week 2 of NFL free agency, anything is possible. If the Birds do something, we will go ahead and make sure to cover it here on my channel. We'll be the first live, as we always are. But the NFL draft is a little over a month away. My sights are shifting towards that, and Philadelphia's met with over 70 NFL draft prospects so far. We're going to dive into that more a lot this week. Be sure to subscribe as we march towards 100,000 subs. My 100K sub giveaway is going to be absolutely crazy. Working on that. More details to come. I'm Thomas Mott. This has been the Thomas Mott Show.